or 18, does it still set in the same as if they were known?
The child being abused?
Right. At 18 in the house?
At 18, they're on their own. They have to call police. They're considered an adult, so it's considered an altercation between adults. Yeah.
With their special needs, I mean, with their like,
There are laws to protect folks who are special needs, but it would still fall under adult laws. Yeah, it wouldn't fall under children's.
so when it's like, especially like, Down syndrome kids, if they're over 18, still.
There are laws to protect the elderly, there are laws to protect children, and there are laws to protect folks who are disabled, whether it's Down syndrome or whatever, but they're all kind of separate laws. So I'm just talking about what falls under the children's code. Yeah. Good? Okay. So we are at this point right here. Adjudication and disposition happened pretty quickly after that first hold order. And so ideally, we've got a CASA in place before we go back to court. We haven't actually had any sort of trial yet, as you probably figured out. We've gone in front of a judge, they put together an order based on some evidence that they were presented, but the parents never had a chance really to defend themselves, right? And everybody is due that. So the next steps are pretty quick. The DA has the right to, the DA is then supposed to put together all the information and put it all together and present it to the court. And then the parents now have a certain amount of time, I think it's like 15 days after that, to then give their answer to that. Sometimes it all happens very quickly, sometimes there's several days in between, but basically this is just a process for the parents to be able to defend themselves and put their side of the story forward, for them to have an attorney, for them to answer the charges that the DA has brought against them. The case again can be dismissed at that point if the judge determines that the parents' attorneys are convincing enough and that it was a valid reason for whatever happened. But more often what happens is we start working on a plan for the child. So DCFS is going to put together a case plan. And so if the court determines, so the judge determines at that point at the end of the adjudication and disposition that, nope, the child is still staying in care, I heard everything you had to say, still going to be in care, at that point, the DCFS plan is going to kick in. So they have looked at a plan to say, what is a way to get permanency? Sometimes the child will go to a relative at this point. If we found a relative and we've been able to figure out that they're okay, and so maybe they go home with grandma and we're able to provide some supervision at that point. Often though what happens,
If they go home with a relative, can the parents see them?
it depends on what the judge says. Yeah. Yeah, there's a really complicated case going on right now that unfortunately is very typical where it's a domestic violence case. So there's also charges in criminal court, which you will often see if physical abuse is so egregious that charges are held against the parents in criminal court, whether it's for beating their children or whatever it is. Then you've got two different courts, two different judges. That's a whole other circus, right? But so in this particular case, it's domestic violence. There's a whole other case going on in criminal court. And in criminal court, that judge said, mom can't see her child. In juvenile court, with this case, the judge has said the child is living with grandma, mom's mom. This isn't dad's mom, this is mom's mom. And so grandma is taking care of the kids, working the case plan. Mom is working her case plan. The judge wants mom to visit the child on a regular basis, and criminal court is saying, no, you can't. It's been a year since she's seen her child. So sometimes you've got all of these other layers that I don't, clearly we're not going to get into in our case, but yes. Sometimes mom can visit, sometimes they can't. If DCFS found out that the family that the child was living in, whether they are sent home then or whether they become the foster parent in the next step, if they found out that visitation was being allowed other than what the judge had ordered and the judge had allowed, then the children may be taken from that placement and put in another placement, which often would be a stranger, not a family placement. So it's definitely important for the family member to follow the judge's orders, even if they're really complicated family situations like, hi, I know you're my daughter, but I can't let you see your kids. Because the alternative is they don't live with grandma anymore, which is much worse. So, assuming that the child continues, we now have a case plan. Yes?
One question.
Sure.
This is just kind of from a question that has kind of come up from my other job.
Right.
And as a CASA, I've been wondering about this as well.
Diane is a CASA for CASA New Orleans.